Am I live? Okay, my friends, hello. Welcome to the Saturday morning live stream here on Garden Like a Viking. It is 15th of October in zone 5B, 6A, Northern Indiana. And today is the live stream. We got a lot to talk about. Now, winter is coming, my friends. Hello, Garth. Good morning. Yes, Grow Zone 4. Winter is coming. Hello, Mick. Good morning. Growing on Vancouver Island. Good morning. Yes, winter is coming. And actually this year, because I just did another consulting type thing in Southern Indiana. And so we drove down to Southern Indiana and we noticed along the way that the trees this year are really vibrant. Really, really vibrant. I don't know about where you are, but they are changing. And every one is just bursting with the colors. And I was talking with my friend that I went down there to see, and we are thinking it's because it's been so dry. It's been so dry here. I mean, it rained the other day for a little while, but other than that, it hasn't rained in like a month or over that. I mean, it's been really poor rainfall this year. And perhaps that has something to do with it, but also it's cool and sort of mild right now. I don't know. I really like this year. We're fading into a nice fall, and winter is coming. Yes. Hello, Tushi. Howdy, y'all from Kentucky. Oh, you're in Kentucky, huh? Good morning from Zone 9, Texas, South Zone 9. Man, so you guys are sort of just getting going into a growing season. You can be growing all kinds of things, all the brassicas, most of the alliums, all of that stuff. So really good for you. From Vancouver Island. I'm from the west coast of Canada, zone 7 and 8. It's supposed to be 25 degrees C today. Warmest fall we have ever had. What's 25 degrees C? Would that be like 70, 60, or no, that's warmer than that, isn't it? What's 25 degrees C in the American system? Garth, had decent rains this summer. Stunning color. Stunning color there as well. Yeah, even more than most because, sometimes the falls will, the leaves will start to change and then we'll have a big storm and it'll blow all the leaves off and it's gone. Everything just sticks. Everything looks like dead twigs now, but not this year, not so far. So, Mick, 84. Whoa, 84. That's pretty warm. That's pretty warm for this time of year. And the west coast of Canada. Randy, greetings Nate and all from Lebanon, Indiana. Yes. Scott, hello from downtown Craigville, the bustling metropolis of Craigville. Good to have you here. Hello Trish, good morning. I think we missed you last week, right? Good to see you here. Yeah, guys. So what is going on with your gardens? What do you guys... I know that you're in totally different grow zones and totally different climates and stuff like that, but what's happening in your garden right now? I can tell you what's happening here is that we've had a frost and all of the heat-loving things are dead, and that's okay because we planned for that. So I like to get the heat-loving things planted early, and then they have their lifespan, but then I plan for that, knowing that there's going to be like a month of growing after the heat-loving things perish. After the first frost, there's still weeks of growing left. You just have to plant the right things. So for example, outside, I still have tons of collard greens that are just starting to get really nice and succulent. The mustard greens, peas, sweet peas are getting really sweet right now. Cabbages are coming in. I'm eating cabbage and potatoes all the time right now. And Chinese cabbage and the daikon radish. I have a daikon radish out there that is this big around. I mean, it is enormous and probably 2 feet long. So I'll show you guys how to make kimchi out of that probably in one of the videos. And Garth said 25C is 74 Fahrenheit. Who said 84? Come on. 74 is more like it. Even that's pretty warm though. But anyways, and what's going on here is that, so all of that stuff is coming into its best season because remember, as the temperature and gets cooler, then the plant senses that the frost is coming And so it shuttles sugars into the parts of the plant that it wants to keep alive. And those are like the leaves of the collard greens and the peas themselves, because sugar water freezes at a lower temperature than regular water. So for that reason, the cold weather makes the cold hardy stuff sweet and delicious. So remember that and plan for a good fall garden. This year has been great for a fall garden in Zone 5B, 6A, Northern Indiana. I don't know about where you are, but it's been really good. So nothing to complain about here. And let's see, hi. Growing a supervisor is good. He is on a dog vacation right now. Oh, so you must be at work. 5B, Central Michigan. Hello, Fringe Recall. Hello, Pam. Yes. ADHD Farmer. Where did you grow in Cali? In Northern Cali, in a place, I don't want to get too specific, but it was outside of Garberville, if that rings a bell. It was on the other side of the 101. So if you know, you know. Yeah, Garberville. And let's see here. I'm doing a garden tour on a world famous garden this weekend. Video coming soon. What? Oh, you got videos on your channel? Okay. Guys, check out his channel too, or her channel. Growing on Vancouver Island. So, okay, we'll check that video out. Thanks for letting us know. And namaste, Mr. Viking. Yes, namaste, Fringe. Mick, bad math. Yeah, it was you that said 84 degrees, wasn't it? That's what I thought. I didn't want to call you out, though. Everything I have is dead, but the cabbages. Plus, I planted garlic. Well, okay. That means that you planted heat-loving things. So all of our peppers, tomatoes, squash, eggplants, cucumbers, basil, all of that kind of stuff, dead. Yeah, dead. Flowers, most of our flowers are dead. Although my marigolds have taken a hard frost and they're still alive. I don't understand it. But yeah, so we have to plan for that, and we have to understand, if you live in the place where you have the distinction like we do, then you have to understand the difference. That, okay, these heat-loving things are going to perish, but there's going to be the whole fall growing season afterwards. So we really, midsummer, I made a video about it, about the fall garden, but you want to say, okay, what in the garden is not really producing? What's not pulling its weight? Because the garden is the most valuable real estate that you own, actually, because it's what you grow your food in. And so you want to utilize that space optimally. And so then you will, late summer, towards the middle to end of July, is when you'll take a look and you'll say, okay, what is not really thriving? And you look ahead and you say, what is not going to be thriving in about another 3 weeks or a month? That would be things like the cucumbers. Cucumbers, you plant them, they grow real fast, they produce a whole boatload of cucumbers, for like 2 or 3 weeks, and then they die off. And that's the natural life cycle of the cucumber, more or less. But most people want to sit there and try and nurse along their kind of sick cucumber that's got a bunch of powdery mildew. And what can I spray on it to get rid of the powdery mildew? Well, there's things you can do, but ideally you'll plan ahead for this with the cucumbers, and you'll plant a couple, and then 2 weeks later or a week later, plant a couple more, and you just know that they burst and then they die off. So you pull them up and you plant peas for the fall garden. Yes? Or you plant, any of the fall crops. And this is how we have to begin really thinking and organizing the mind so that we can always have something growing in the space. It's the worst to have nice garden soil that is all, bursting with life, and then you just get one little run of cucumbers or one little run of tomatoes. And then now you're just looking at either dead plants for months on end, or you're just looking at sort of empty space. And remember, nature never has open ground. Nature, short of like an accident or something, or a desert, nature always has a living root in the ground. And so that's what we also want to do in our garden. That's what's best for the soil, is to always have something growing, or if there's not something growing, then have it covered. Have the soil covered. Bare exposed soil is the worst. It's the worst. Okay? That's the old way of thinking. I mean, old as in the past, 70 years, industrial ag type thinking, to just harvest your crops and leave the soil bare, for another 7 months until you plant your crops. That is not the way nature does it. And that's not the way, that's just not the way. Okay? So we have to get totally away from that, and we have to say, Okay, the soil must always be covered. There must either be a living root in the ground or there must be a deep mulch of some kind. And right now is the time to do either. You can still plant cover crops. Remember, zones 6 and zone 6 and above, crimson clover. Zone 5 and below, mammoth red clover. And all zones can do winter rye or the winter wheat. Okay, those are the cover crops we'll want to use. So watch my videos on the cover crops if you want to know if it's right for you. But if not, then go ahead and add fertility. Add the manures. Any kind of manure right now is going to be good. Leaf mulch. I'll be making videos on the leaf mulch. That's right. I'll be making videos, but the leaves haven't fell yet. So they're still a few weeks off, you know. And you want to put the manure on them. If you have bone meal, if you want to add things like bone meal, you can. Even though next year I'll show you how to make your own bone meal, which is very, very easy and better. And add the fertility and stuff now, and then we'll cover it with the deep mulch, and then that's going to give the microbial activity and the worms food all winter long. Seaweed, absolutely, growing on Vancouver. If you have access to seaweed, it's a wonderful thing to be using in the garden. So all that stuff can go on now and then decompose so that in the springtime, it's going to be nice and vibrant, because that's how nature does it. In the fall time, everything falls to the ground. I mean, more or less, things fall to the ground, and then they decompose over the winter time. And then come spring, new life is ready to burst. So we just mimic this, yes? And we use the crop residues because that's how nature does it. It drops some of the fruit, or it drops the fruits, it drops the plant, and wild grasses get mixed in there, and other plants, weeds and stuff like that. And it all just builds the fertility of the soil. So we just have to observe and accept this within ourselves and this understanding. And then we just mimic nature. And that's how we have success. And that's how we leave the land more fertile year after year, because that's what's important. We're only here for a very short time, so we don't want to leave the land less fertile through our practices of growing food, as is the case right now, as is what we really discussed in the consulting trip down to southern Indiana, which I might, if we get to that, I'll tell you guys about that. Just got back late last night. So, all right, let me get to a few of these questions. Balance between bacteria and fungi, the outsider. That's absolutely right, because when they're in balance, when there's the maximum diversity of microorganisms, is when everything is kept in check. Only when things are lopsided can one pathogen or virus or fungus gain dominance. St. Charles, greetings from Disneyland. Are you really in Disneyland, or are you just saying that? Ernena Ruge. Hello, I'm a new backyard gardening here in Ontario from the Philippines. Oh, okay. That would be a different, that would be a real switch in zones, wouldn't it? Coming from the Philippines to Ontario. Good morning, Double A. Let's see here. I'm in 6A. How far along should cabbage and broccoli be? Don't have heads yet. 6A, cabbage and broccoli, yeah, you planted it too late. Now, if the cabbage, the broccoli doesn't have heads yet, then, because they should sort of be ripening now and to about the next 2 weeks. Even though this year, if you look at the forecast, here at least, 10 days from now, it's going to be in the high 60s Fahrenheit, you know, with the lows in the 40s. So it's still going to be that mild, what we used to call Indian summer, where it's just kind of like a mild summer or a mild fall. So you'll still have, you know, plenty of time. And as the days get shorter and the temperature gets cooler, it signals to the plant, hey, we better hurry up. You know, so they tend to ripen faster. But if you need to, then you can make a hoop house of some kind, a season extender. And I didn't get around to making that video this season, but you know, you can only make so many videos. But if you need to, look, here's the way I like to do it. So if you guys need to extend your season a bit, here is how I like to do it. If you have cabbages or peas or kale or collard greens or whatever it is that you want to, broccoli and cabbage would be good because those must reach a certain point before you really want to harvest them, as opposed to the collard greens and stuff you can harvest at any point. So cabbages, peas, and broccoli, things that you have to get to a certain point before you can harvest it, those are what you want to put the season extender on, and it's very simple. Here's how I like to do it. You get pieces of rebar, you know, rebar, the metal, the concrete mesh stuff, and you can cut them in about 1 or 2 foot sections and go on each side of your row or of the bed or whatever it is, and about every 3 to 4 feet, you can pound them like this into the ground, and then you take the 1/2 inch PVC in 10 foot sections, and if you need to cut it, you can, but you just bend it over and place it right over the top of that rebar. And that's a very simple hoop house, very sturdy. And so you'll do it every few feet. And if you expect snow, do it every just like 3 feet. But you can get away with like every 5 feet or even more if there's not going to be a lot of snow. And then, so you'll make these ribs in that way. And then you'll cover it with just sheet plastic. Things like that you would get from the Menards or Home Depot or something. Any type of see-through plastic will work. And you'll lay it over the whole thing and then secure it with logs or bars or pieces of wood or whatever on the side. And that's going to hold it down. Now that's going to create a miniature greenhouse over your broccoli and cabbage. But you will have to remember to open it, roll it up in the daytime because it might get too hot. So that's the only thing though. And then at night, so only in the heat of the day, you might have to roll it up to keep it from cooking, you know, but then roll it down at night. And that's going to really, that'll extend your season by weeks because it doesn't get that hard frost at night. So that's a good way to extend the season. All right. Jason, what's up, fellow Hoosier? I have hoop houses built on my raised beds, but lost my green beans to the last freeze. Oh yeah, green beans long gone. Peas, carrots, and beets are still rocking. Absolutely. Peas, carrots, and beets are thriving right now. They're loving this weather. But the beans, yeah, gone. They're real soft. They're Southerners. Let's see. I would add your mushroom substrate to my compost bin pile or dug it into trenches in your garden bed and over them. Yes, if you have the mushroom substrate, absolutely. You can add it to the compost pile or dig it into the garden. I'll show you guys all different ways that we can do that this coming spring. Because remember, we're going to begin with the growing them indoors in this way. Through this, and then we're also going to use the buckets in the tent. So you just watched the video I made about the tent. I recommend getting a tent because it gives you such better control over the environment. Now, of course, you can do it otherwise, but it's going to make things a lot easier. You see this one here is already starting to release a little bit of spores because I'm trying to wait for these ones to really get nice and ripe. But I'm going to pick this one today because you see how it has started to, it was nice and white like cauliflower, but now it's turning a little bit darker yellow, brown. That is because it's releasing its spores. And so right now is the time. Now is when it needs to be harvested. So now that I'm going to harvest this, I'll be able to make the whole video and show you the whole process. So this will be the introduction to the mushrooms so that you can understand the process and the life cycle of a mushroom and what it is and what we have to do. And then we're going to take this and inoculate, well, we're going to get a couple of these fruitings from this, but then we're going to take it and inoculate the buckets. I'll show you guys the bucket method, and we're going to be growing a bunch of these lion's mane. But then we're also growing the yellow oysters, which mine are colonizing and they're going to start fruiting pretty soon. So I am going to be making those videos because I already did all that stuff and they're already colonized. They're almost fruiting at the moment. So once that happens, I'll be able to make the videos and then boom, we'll go from there. So yes, and then we'll take those buckets and in the springtime, we can inoculate some beds outdoors, which will be awesome. D. Spencer 20, hello from the United Kingdom. Hello from Midwest, USA. Let's see here. Trish says, rather than ripping out all the dead or dying plants, can I leave them behind until I begin preparing the spring beds? You can, yes. I never like the term ripping out though, because you always leave the roots in the ground. So you would cut them off at ground level. Now, yes, you can just leave them over the wintertime. That's better than clearing them away and just having bare earth. But what would be ideal is to put deep mulch over them, you know, to mulch over them and then let the worms and everything break it down over the wintertime. That's going to give you the best results for the spring. You could even, I mean, if you watched the last video I made, I just mowed all the crops down and then planted or then put leaf mold or grass clippings or straw or whatever you want, or manure over that. And you can plant a cover crop over it, or you can just let it decompose naturally. You got a lot of options. So Fringe Recall says, have you ever used tarps to terminate your cover crops? Yes, I definitely have. Now, the thing is, it depends on what cover crop, because the winter rye actually will not really terminate from doing it that way. I mean, it will take so long, over a month, for it to really work, because the winter rye, man, it will, even an all black tarp, it will push the black tarp completely up, and you'll see it just look like something is growing right out of it, and it's just pushing the tarp up, and then it'll blow away. I mean, it's incredible. So you really have to terminate the winter rye at the right time. But things like clover and stuff, yes, you can terminate them with the tarp. And the winter rye, if you do it at the right time, or the winter wheat, you can terminate it with the tarp as well, yes. And this year, those are the only two cover crops that we're working with, that I'm suggesting, because those are what I really know the best. So of course there's many other cover crops, but for now, I just like to keep it simple with people. So because you get all the benefit you need, from clovers and the rye or the wheat grass. So, and they're so simple and easy to work with, okay? And they really help the soil. So that is what I like to recommend. And yeah, you can terminate it with a tarp, but you just have to be, you'd have to start so early in the springtime that you would lose a lot of the benefits, because you want that early springtime, you want them because the cover crop starts regrowing out of dormancy really early spring, before any of the other crops. It starts regrowing. That's its natural way of reproducing. So it goes to seed in the middle of the summertime, as opposed to most of the plants go to seed late in the fall. But the cover crop plants that we choose for cover crops tend to go to seed in the middle of summer, so that then they drop their seed when it's still nice and warm. And so they grow and they sprout during the late summertime, when all the other plants are just dying. And so and then they go dormant over the wintertime, so that really early springtime, they start growing before anything else. So that's their mechanism of survival. While all the other crops are going to seed, they're already growing for next year. So we want to utilize that and have them building soil for us in the very early spring, as soon as they start to grow. So, and that's the building soil is the plant-driven process by which carbon is captured out of the atmosphere, and then using the power of the sun, it pumps the carbon into the ground in various forms. There it stays, enriching the soil and the microbial life. So soil building is a plant-driven process. And so we want that living root in the ground receiving that solar power as long as it can. And if we have to tarp it for 6 weeks, that's really going to put a damper on that, okay? SC, signing in just as you are ending your video. Looking forward to rewatch. Looks like I missed a lot today. Oh, we just started, actually, 20 minutes. Thanks for doing what you do, Nate. We appreciate you. Thank you very much, my friend. I appreciate hearing that. And John Jude, I planted a little patch of my winter wheat to raise next season's seeds. Very good idea. And see, the earlier that you plant it, if you see some people with like winter rye that is like 6 feet tall, it means that they planted it pretty early. So if you see, you can plant winter rye all the way until like the ground is almost frozen. It will germinate at like 34 degrees Fahrenheit. So you can plant winter rye, pretty late, and winter wheat as well. They're really interchangeable. Matt, we have a white Dutch clover that grows native here. I really like the way the crimson looks though. Oh yeah, well the white Dutch clover is wonderful, and that's one of those that you can actually use as a living mulch. Although living mulches can be really difficult to people, and you just got to know how to do it. But the Dutch white clover is a good living mulch because it doesn't get so big. The crimson clover can get 2, sometimes 3 feet, depending on the way that the soil is, but it's so beautiful, and the pollinators love it. And it's one of the first things to really come into bloom. So a nice field of crimson clover just swaying in the wind and the spring, summer is starting and everything, you know, the life-giving feeling of spring, the smell of the rain. Oh, it's so wonderful. And then you can just observe, you can sit there and you can feel so good that summer and the growing season is coming, and the pollinators are buzzing into the crimson clover. It's just an awesome experience. So Joanne, hello, good to see you. Got the rye and clover seeds from True Leaf. Very impressed with packaging. Excited to plant. Absolutely, yeah, guys. The links I put in the description of the videos, I only put them there if I believe in them, and if I use them. So that's the only way. So the True Leaf seeds, man, I've been using them for a while, and I usually have some that I show you, but the packaging is on point, the germination rate is on point, the storability is on point, and the price is very competitive. In fact, I think a lot of other places get their seeds from True Leaf and then repackage them and sell them at a higher rate. But yeah, so if you use the links in the description, it doesn't cost you anything else. It just gives me a small kickback. So I appreciate that. And it allows me to utilize, you know, I can get other seeds from them that I can experiment with. So we can continue to expand our knowledge base, which is very important. So yeah, the cover crop seeds, also the microgreen seeds, because we'll be starting the microgreens here in another few weeks, you know, something like that. And once everything is done and we just start getting that, okay, we got to start growing something, because, you know, the need to grow. I don't know if you've got it. I think a lot of you do, but the need to grow is a very real thing. Because it's like, if you're not growing, then you're dying in a way. So it just feels really good to grow stuff, you know, which leads me to my thing. Guys, it's time to, if you have any house plants, it's time to clone them, okay? It's time to clone them. You see, I cloned my pothos here. It's beautiful. Because pothos and most houseplants go through a period of growth spurt twice a year, in the spring transitioning to summer, and as the summer transitions into winter. And that's because of the daylight hours, because they evolved real close to the equator. And so where it's generally 12 hours of darkness, 12 hours of sunlight. And so they evolved best with that cycle, that light cycle. And so twice a year, the day-light cycles get to about that. And so they're in their element, so they get a good growth spurt. So right about now is the time that you want to clone your houseplants, your pothos, your philodendrons, your Swedish ivy, you know, the snake plants, the Dracania, Sansevieria, all of that stuff. Now you want to do that now because they will clone really well, because they like the hours, the 12 hours of sunlight. And to clone them, it's super easy. All you do is you just look, and I'll make a video on this here when it's coming up, but this is good knowledge to know, guys. So even if you don't have houseplants at the moment, it's not a deal breaker. But look, so there's a long vine. So these are long, you know, I got some 30-foot vines, and the vine goes like this, out this way and out this way. And you just have to cut a little bit on each side. It only needs a 1/2 inch to 1 inch on each side. And then you just stick that into the water, and you can see it starts growing roots out of that part. And this will become an entirely new plant. So I like to put like a dozen or so of them together like this. And then these are all gonna make roots real soon. Like, and then you will see them. You'll see the roots popping out, and that's when you can replant them or give them away as gifts. Or if you do it now, you're right in time for Christmas. So to the grower or the garden lover in your life, or anyone that just feels down a lot or something, or anyone that feels, plants are just such a great thing to give people. So you could plan now for a homemade Christmas gift by cloning any of your various houseplants. And people love receiving plants, okay? And it keeps giving. So let's see here, a few of these questions. How do you personally eat the wheat berries, if you do? The wheat berries? Oh, absolutely, man. And you'll see on the channel, I am a huge proponent and consumer of wheatgrass. So I will sprout it, I will harvest it, and then I will sprout it. And I'll show you guys how to do that. But sprouting wheatgrass is one of the most incredible things we can do over the winter time, because the wheatgrass is the #1 source of chlorophyll, or just about the #1 source that I'm aware of chlorophyll. Blue-green algae might be up there. But the wheatgrass, when we grow it, and you'll see through the videos that we do this winter, it is literally capturing the sunlight. It's so full of chlorophyll, and so, which is solar energy. And so then we juice it, and we are drinking pure liquid sunshine in the closest sense of the word. And you will feel this when we start taking raw wheatgrass shots. It's just, whoa, it's so fantastic. So that's how I like to consume it. Also, I will sprout the wheat berries for a number of days, so I'll make videos about sprouting as well. And we will sprout the wheat berries, not like a similar method to other sprouts, but we only let the sprout just get real small, okay, just till we barely see the sprout on the wheat berries, and then we consume them that way. A raw sprouted wheat, like porridge with some fruits and some cinnamon and some raw milk or some raw cream. Wow, wow. You will not need to worry about health if you're consuming things like the wheatgrass shots, the sprouted wheat berries, and you sprout all the other stuff that you're eating. It's big time, guys. So I can't get too because I'll get real passionate about all that. So I love True Leaf seeds. Only negative experience I've had was with the expensive purple Nesco Perilla, 10% germination. Wow. That would be, that'd be the only time that I've heard about that thing. So guys, remember to like the video, please. Yes, go ahead and just click the thumbs up. It helps everything, you know, and we all love to grow things. So we are growing this channel. It's not me growing it, it's we are growing the channel. So I appreciate all of that. So in all the videos you watch, leave a comment, you know, just whatever comes to mind, you know, and plus I want to know your input or your experience or whatever it is. You know, so don't be afraid to share your thoughts. DA, are you concerned about plastics leaching into your mycelium or soil, growing in bags, buckets, and other fermentation containers? Now, at first, yes, I was concerned. But then over the years and the research that I've done and the way that I understand now plants, I am not concerned about it. I mean, I'm as concerned as, you know, there's a plastic mic this close to my face. I brush my teeth with a plastic, you know, toothbrush. All the food, if you buy anything from any store, it comes in plastic. All of the, you know, just there's plastic everywhere. So you try to choose the right types of plastic, and you try to limit your exposure to it. And one of the things is that the plants actually only take up what they require for the most part. So it's not actually taking up plastic particles from the roots and putting it into the plants like it might seem like it is. The mushrooms as well. They're not taking plastic particles and then making plant material out of it. They can't. They don't do that. And so the only ones that would be, you know, even remotely concerning would be the root vegetables that actually come into contact with it. But even that, you know, we have to find the fine line, because see, I get a lot of comments about that, are you concerned about the plastics? But we have to keep things in perspective, my friends, that you're already surrounded by plastic, and that we are utilizing the same type of plastic that is completely allowable on certified organic farming operations. I researched all this and stuff. So the right type of plastic is, you know, minimal threat to us, all things considered, because, well, yeah, that's EcoBlue. Let's see. It's me, $10. Hey, thank you, my friend. First tip for the day. Thanks for sharing your knowledge. I appreciate that. Val, should the compost piles stay covered all the time? Yes, they should. And I'll make a video on composting. Can we do the ferments in galvanized metal buckets? Found some awesome ones with rubber seal lid for $5 each. We'll be using around the homestead, but wondering if okay for ferments. Galvanized metal buckets, I would imagine so, unless, what is the galvanization? I think it's a zinc coating, right? The static cling, the zinc coating. I believe that's how that's done. So I think it would be fine. You know, go ahead and try it out. Although I've never done it in that. I don't see any issue. So Garden Like a Viking, do you have a Patreon? I do not have a Patreon, no. Thank you for asking though. But no, like I just kind of feel like there's a lot of people in like African countries and India and Vietnam. You guys are watching from all over the world now. And because I've been to those countries, I know that even $1 monthly subscription is like unacceptable to, I mean, or not possible to a lot of them, but yet everyone's got internet access throughout the world now in some way. So, for that reason, I kind of just keep it. I just trust that people are going to help contribute in whatever way they have available to them. So there's PayPal links. I also just signed up for, there's links in the description to the PayPal. I also signed up for Venmo. So I'm gonna tell you guys how to get to that as well. And there's also the super thanks. If you want to contribute, I really appreciate it. But I'm gonna give the same great content to everybody pretty much, because that just seems like the right way to me. And the people have been so kind. I mean, the people, like right there, Eco Blue Farms, $9.99. Thank you very much, my friend, for the $10. See, and that person just supports because they want to support the cause. And so it's really good because, I've been doing these consulting gigs and all of that kind of stuff, and through the Zoom platform, but also ones in person. And I've not even had to say like a price. The people have just been very kind and very generous. And so it's just been wonderful. So that's what I think, that people will contribute based upon their means because they value something. So galvanize is reactive, so don't use with acidic foods. Okay, so what do you think about using it in the ferments? Reactive. I would have to look into that before anyone quotes me on, or before anyone makes a decision on using galvanized buckets for the ferments. Let's do a little more research first. Eco Blue, learning so much from you. Had to say thank you. Thank you very much, my friend. Yes. And like I always say, a little tip is a symbolic representation of your time, because all of this takes my time. So you say, okay, here's a symbolic representation of my time, because you had to do something to get the money. So have you used self-watering containers in your indoor grows? I've never had a need. I am not about self-watering stuff now, because there's just not the control. And I like to be able to, you have to view the plants. You have to see them. You have to feel the atmosphere, especially indoor. Indoor stuff needs to pretty much daily. I mean, to really do it right. You can automate stuff and just forget about it, and you'll have some success probably. There's definitely ways to do that. If you're super busy, then I can recommend all those ways. But for the most part, you want to be eyes on the plants every day. Watering and just feeling the environment, because if it's too stuffy, if there's too much airflow, if it's too dry, if it's too, all this stuff, you want to be able to change all of that. And you have to catch things. Indoors, you have to catch things as soon as they start. So when you walk into the grow room or tent or whatever it is, you have to smell the air. Does it smell stale? You have to feel the sort of the atmosphere. Is it too humid? Is it stuffy? Or is it does it feel like a nice day at the beach? That's what you want. Nice, sunny, breezy day at the beach. Let's see here. St. Charles, I live a mile from Disneyland, which was once grapevines, then orange groves. Wow, is that right? Not sure about that. So Mick says, not sure about that, but used to prep cider and all of it tasted like tin. We threw it out just to be safe. Okay, yeah, that would make sense. So if you're gonna eat something from it, it does seem like the galvanized pail or whatever would taste, it does seem very metallic and tinny. Though I don't know how that would react with the ferments. So I don't know if that's a problem. $9.99. Thank you very much, Mick. I appreciate you and your involvement with all this. Should I put, John Cornwell, should I put out my entire tomato plant at the end of the season, or chop it at the base and leave the roots in the ground to decompose? Absolutely. Chop it at the base, leave the roots to decompose. Pretty much without exception, we leave all the roots in the ground of the plants. Unless it's a perennial that's going to come back and we don't want it to come back anymore, then we have to pull the roots out. But for the most part, you always will leave the roots because of the complex web of interrelationships that it has formulated with the ground and the microorganisms within the ground. We want all that to remain intact. And then as the roots, especially if you're practicing no-till, no-dig, of course, all of the roots go into the ground, and then as they decompose, they become food for the microbes, but they also leave the tiny little air channels so they're aerating the soil. It's much better than tilling the soil, actually. Let's see, Eco Blue. I have water grids in my greenhouse, high tunnel. However, I get a joy out of hand watering too. Absolutely, yes. That would be a sort of a different thing, because I definitely used to use drip lines in a greenhouse. We had 5 or 6. There's just so many. Yeah. So a lot of greenhouse activity going on, and we had these big beds, and I ran drip lines. We had 20 foot wide and 80 feet long was each bed. And we ran drip lines around them, and that's the only way that I would do that. It's the only way you could do it. So there's certain situations that, drip line, to me, that's still not automated though. So automated is where you just have to forget about it. Yeah, it's different. So I definitely, in the right situation, use the drip lines and the watering systems, but indoors, on a small scale, warehouse grows and stuff is totally different, but indoors on a small scale is ideal to hand water because you want to be in there every day. Ms. P, feeling the atmosphere here. Yes, that's what it's about. And that's what makes us good growers, is we feel the atmosphere and we say, okay, we think like a plant. We feel, we thrive like a plant. And let's see here, galvanized, learning, self-watering. Yeah, so here's a couple things. Man, if any of you guys are trying to get some really good, so yesterday when I went to the consulting trip in Southern Indiana, we took a look around a really old family farm that is, the guys there are trying to take land that has been conventionally farmed for years, and for like 40, 50 years, and they're trying to convert it to regenerative type pasture for the grass-fed beef. And this is going to be an awesome experience because there's definitely things that we can do in order to bolster this. But essentially what has happened is the person took it out of rotation and then is trying to go straight natural right away, and is realizing that the stuff just doesn't want to grow. So one of the years, then he got a conventional farm, soil test from the ag company, and the ag company was like, well, here's your analysis, and so you need to add so many hundreds of pounds of this fertilizer, and here it's all expensive. He added that fertilizer, and the grasses, because these are forage crops for beef, the grasses grew really well that year, but then the following year again, grew like shit. And so this is because the soil is dead, because the microbial life in the soil. And this is a really good opportunity. It's just really illustrative of exactly what we are running into and going to be running into in the future. Because what we're doing to the soil is a tragedy, is unbelievably alarming if people understood the real depth of what is happening. And we can see it when we try to immediately pull land out of crop rotation of conventional ag and want to grow organically or in the natural way, which is even beyond organic, straight away. And the plants won't do anything because the soil's dead. So we have to reinvigorate the soil with the microbiology. And this is the real key. So yeah, a lot of potential I see there with some stuff coming up. But during that, we went for a tour of the maple syrup farm, and it was awesome because I don't know if some of you have watched my other channel that's just called Nate Muri, and I describe a process called the Master Cleanse for detoxifying and purifying the body. Anyone can do it. It's no special equipment, very cheap and easy. No product that I'm selling or anything. So it's just, you can heal yourself. You can heal yourself of a vast array of things, both physically, mentally, and spiritually. But one of the ingredients is pure grade B maple syrup, which is a real concentrated source of minerals and sugars. And so I finally found a really good quality source when we toured the farm. And it's Harris Sugar Bush in Greencastle, Indiana. harrissugarbush.com. And I'm going to put a link, probably, yeah, I'm just going to put a link to the website because, and no, I mean, I didn't tell them I was going to do any of this, but I just believe in it because I saw the place and it's in Indiana and they ship all over the country. So, and it's very, very reasonably priced for what it is. So yeah, the stuff, and I was tasting it yesterday and because, you know, they were like, do you want to try some? I said, yeah, but I'll take it in a shot glass because I'm a maple sugar connoisseur. And so I tasted it and it is amazingly flavored. So yeah, it's the only, maple syrup, honey, and molasses. Those are the only sweeteners that I use, really. And I use them in a lot of things. Yes. So I just wanted to say that. Grizzly Adams, oh, that's a awesome name. I'm new to your channel. I have been watching your videos on homemade fertilizer. Thank you. I am very impressed. That's wonderful, my friend. I think you will be even more impressed when you see the results of beginning to use all of this stuff. You are really going to like it then. Faisal Shahini, how to stop ants and aphids from crops. Please advise. Well, that is kind of an in-depth topic. And the ant thing is actually something that we've been talking about on this channel because I personally have not had that many problems with ants, and so I haven't had to do anything about it. But a lot of you guys have. And so you've been, I've gotten probably at this point a dozen different recommendations about utilizing, for ants, about utilizing borax and sugar. And one person said, take the borax and the sugar and soak it into bird seed and then let it dry, then sprinkle it around the anthill. But this other lady, Roxanne, she is saying that do not use the bird seed. And I forget exactly why she said this. I don't have my notes with me. But she said just the borax and sugar is all that you need. And so that is very effective because they will eat the borax sugar and they will carry it back to their nest and their colony, and everyone will perish because of the borax. So if you have a serious issue with ants, utilize the borax and sugar method because a dozen of you already at least have said this. So I tend to think it's effective if that many people are saying it. So although I haven't personally tried it. Good dog. Yeah, probably because the birds will eat it. And that would make sense because you wouldn't want to put a bunch of bird seed out, poisoned bird seed, right? So you would just put the, that'd be terrible. So you would just put the borax and sugar water. Okay. David says, I asked you about a week ago if you could use entrails for fermenting. After your answer, I got to thinking. I catch a lot of mice in traps. I hope I didn't mess up putting them in the animal ferment. No, why not? But what kind of traps? Poison? Oh man, if you poison the mice, you got to get them out of there because that is not going to be good for the ferment or for anything. You really, man, poisoning mice, and I don't know if you are, but poisoning any animal is an absolute last resort. Only if you've tried every other method and they're destroying your food supplies or something like that, then it's like acceptable. But that's like the atomic bomb to the ecosystem. So really do everything you can to not ever poison the animals. Okay, let's see here. I think that there was a tip up here. I want to see what's going on. Crystal Jones, my friend. I'm so glad you watched these. $9.99. Thank you, my friend. Nate, regarding the Master Cleanse, how do you feel about continuing to have your coffee in the morning? Okay, I know you're kidding. You're probably sitting there laughing right now that I even read that out loud at how ludicrous that is, right? So have a good laugh because that's absolutely preposterous to, you cannot have anything other than the formula on the Master Cleanse. I'm sorry. So hope you got a good laugh from that because I did. No, just the Master Cleanse exactly as described. Mr. Kevin Straub, hi there, love that farmer cheese. I am still not clear on the matter of salting it at the time of mixing the probiotic rice water and the milk. Would this interfere with the fermentation process? Yes, that would interfere. Do not want to salt it at that point. Now, if you need to salt it, see when we turn it into cheese, which I haven't made the video yet, I know. But when we turn it into cheese, we essentially would just have to heat it up really good, and then we add the salt then. It's kind of a messy process, but at that point, it's possible we could add, so if you really want to get into it, to turn it into long-term cheese, we will heat it up and then salt it, and then once it cools, if you want to make a various kind of cheese, we can add a specific cheese enzyme at that point. But that totally changes the structure of it. The best is the fresh farmer cheese, because that's bursting with the probiotics. It's all alive. We haven't killed it with heat. So what I like to do is I will slice it, salt it with the sea salt right before eating it. I salt it so that I'm actually chunks of salt, of the sea salt, are hitting the tongue. That's what I like the best. So, I mean, if you need like a uniform saltness, I don't know why you would, but no, definitely don't be, I would not recommend adding it at the time of the rice wash water. No, that would totally change things. Let's see. Crystal, you're killing me. Yeah, I know. Cornmeal and baking soda equal parts for small rodents. Okay, Rick says cornmeal and baking soda equal parts for small rodents. Can you elaborate on that, Rick? Because Rachel says, hey Nate, do you have any tips to get rid of moles? They are destroying my vegetable plot and eating all my worms. I don't have any that are really effective. I mean, I don't have any that are like I want them to be. No. Besides cats, dogs, and no, unfortunately I don't. And I get asked that all the time. I have all kinds of experimentations that I've done, but I can't say that any of them are more or less effective than anything else. So it really is just, the only other thing is to the predator, urine. That's what I used in California when we were getting destroyed by stuff. I would go to the hunting store to where they have the traps, the cruel, disgusting leg traps for the animals, and they usually have like a lure, a coyote or a fox lure, and you can. That's a really strong scent of the coyote and fox, and then you dab it on the strips of like t-shirt and place it at the perimeter, and most things will stay away. All little rodents and stuff like that, as soon as they smell that, gone. And we never had any other issues after that. So that's what I usually recommend to people. Let's see, in the cheese is real tart. Is that okay? Maybe 1.5 weeks old. Ooh, yeah, a week and a half old. I'd say, I mean, it's all about flavor, or it's all about, you will tell if it goes rancid. If the farmer cheese goes rancid, you will be able to tell. Okay, now, use the smell. When it comes to eating things, use the trust of the sense of smell. So, yeah, 1.5 weeks, that's getting up there though. I mean, really, it's best to eat within a few days, this cheese. That's why you have to make it so fresh, The natural human, for moles, rodents, yes, barn cats. Yeah, I mean, barn cats is the ultimate solution, by far, is to just get a bunch of cats. Preferably like Maine Coons, and then just let them breed, and just have a bunch of Maine Coon cougar tigers running all over the place. I've seen some ranches like that. So, I heard Louisiana soil is very fertile. Is it true? Probably. I would imagine so. I've not lived there and tried to farm there, so I wouldn't know exactly. Let's see, for moles, I ended up buying bug nets for next season. Hi Nate, I'm moving to my unheated winter camp in desert of southern Arizona. Well, that sounds fun. It gets cold at night, and not sure if microgreens or sprouts would do better. And I'm trying mushrooms also. Okay, what you're calling cold is, I get the feeling, is not really cold. So what do you mean? And where are it gets unheated? So what are you growing in though? Where are the microgreens and where would they grow? Mushrooms can grow in a wide variety of temperatures. So the mushrooms will do fine. They'll just grow a little bit slower. Also the sprouts, also the microgreens, they'll just grow slower. So we will use that, and you'll see when I make the videos and stuff that we can use that to our advantage. See, if it's 70 to 85, in that spectrum, they're gonna grow fast. Right around 80 degrees, the microgreens are gonna go real fast. But if it's like 55 degrees, they'll still grow, but it'll just be much slower. So if you've got some place, you know, that's much cooler, you just need to start more. We'll start more trays, and we'll just let them mature, you know, slower. So you can actually use the slower germination and growth rate to your advantage, up to a point. Okay, unheated trailer outside can get to freezing. Yeah, okay. Well, freezing is they're not gonna like freezing. I mean, so the microgreens can still work, but the mushrooms and microgreens, they're not gonna like freezing. You'll have issues with that. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know what your setup is going to be like, you know, or what. You might want to do something about a heat sink, or maybe like a solar, you know, something that can trap some of the solar energy during the day, barrels of water, or some kind of, you know, the north wall typically will have some kind of a heat sink that can help. Okay, Rachel, my vegetable plot is an allotment from the council, so they wouldn't allow the cats. Oh, an allotment from the council. That sounds official. You must be in England somewhere, yes? Yeah, so then, well, then whatever you're going to do is going to have all kind. I mean, because if it's on an allotment property, then everyone's got them. And everyone else's poor practices will probably, you know, I would suggest the urine thing, the coyote predatory urine in that case, and just make them stay away from your plot. Since there's so many other plots that they can go to, just put the lure, the fox, coyote, or wolf lure urine around your perimeter, and that's going to make them not want to go to your place because they're going to think that the fox is there, and the fox will eat them. So, and just let them go to everybody else's, I guess. You can be that person. Ms. P, $4.99. Thank you, my friend. Appreciate the tip. Charlie, water. Heat of fusion slows freezing. Heat of fusion slows freezing. Yes, I'm not sure what you're talking about there. If you could elaborate. And Rachel, many thanks, Scotty B. Brilliant tip. I will try that first, as well as it will be easier than collecting predator urine. Well, you don't actually go out and milk the wolf. I hope we're clear on that, though. You don't actually collect the urine from the wolf or the fox. There's a companies that have already done that and put it into a bottle. So, Daniel, any experience growing scarlet runner beans? Any tips? Yeah, if you live in a place where it gets too warm, they're not going to thrive. Scarlet runner beans prefer the climate of like England or of the Pacific Northwest. Someplace like that is temperate and sort of, once they get above 80, they start not wanting to produce. So they grow well in places like Ireland and you know, all of the UK. They'll grow well. Think that kind of climate. If you've ever been to these places, or if you've been to the Pacific Northwest, then that's the kind of climate they thrive in. They do much better than green beans if you live in those climates, though, because green beans or like other kind of, you know, anasazi beans or dry beans, pole beans, they will thrive in heat. So if you live like in the South, rattlesnake pole beans, or a number of different things for the heat living. But if you live in a cooler, temperate area, scarlet runner beans are fantastic. And they're real big too. I think I got a couple of them right around, I can't find it right now, but I got a couple of them right around here. Leslie, $5. Thank you, my friend. Thank you. Clone some peace plant while listening. Oh, that is a wonderful experience, my friend. Yes, thank you for sharing that. And they've got the good energy now. And because houseplant season is upon us. And I just cut a bunch of the houseplants. And I'll be telling you guys a couple of the fertilizers that I like to make for the houseplants. And if you saw my houseplants, you would be like, what are you feeding them? Because they're ridiculous. Anyone that has been here can say that is true. So thank you. That changes things for me. Always appreciate. Yes, you're very welcome. So scarlet runners are for the cooler weather. Definitely. Okay, Trish, I'm laughing so hard by the thought of milking a wolf for urine. Yeah, I know. Maybe I shouldn't have said that. I should have said, well, that's what I'm going to start saying. Anything for moles or voles? Yes. You must first acquire the milk of the wolf. Get your predator scents at the hunting section of the stores. Yes, the predator scents. The hunting section of the store will have them. But actually one that I found more effective is the lure. So I don't know if it's different what you're talking about, but they have like urine and then the lure. So try them both. But the one that they sell in the area where they have the leg traps and all those just horrific, medieval like traps for the trapping the animals, that is where they sell the lure, because you put it all over the trap or whatever. I'm no problem with hunting. I mean, I used to hunt all the time, and I would still do it now, and would like to actually this winter. But trapping, man, only if you are like, that's just a whole different ballgame. Yeah. Only if you really are like depending on it. It just seems so unnecessarily cruel to me, because it's indifferent. It can trap anything, and the animal, it's not like a quick death. It just has to sit there and panic forever. I have terrible vole problem and have to plant in raised beds with hardwood cloth under nailed to wood. And does that work for you? Is that good enough? Because the voles can just bloop, climb right over the bed and then bury in that way, if they sense that there's a better food source in there. Does the hardware cloth thing work for you? Okay. Eco Blue, I went to dig up one of my okra plants to overwinter in my greenhouse. Do you think it would survive the move? I just learned that as long as frost doesn't touch okra, it will yield all winter. Ooh. And you are in what zone? I mean, is it going to be a heated greenhouse, or is it going to be, I think you said 7? You're in zone 7? Or was it 9? I forget. But the okra, most plants, man, once they've already started to fruit and that they've set seed and stuff, their time of putting down roots is over, because they've said, okay, well, my life purpose has been fulfilled for the most part. So it'll keep producing if you keep picking it and don't let the fruits go ripe. But if you try to uproot it, okay, Texas 8B. So if you try to uproot it, it's not gonna want to revert the energy to putting down roots, because the plant does it in stages. It sprouts up a little bit and it wants to set those roots immediately, because it works on its foundation first. So, and then it'll go into vegetative growth, and then once it starts fruiting, it's already established its whole root base. So if you're gonna dig it up, I mean, if you dug up a huge circle around it and didn't disturb any of the roots, I think it will work really well. I mean, it could potentially work. But if you're gonna like get a shovel and like tear some of the small little hair roots and stuff, I really don't think that's gonna work that well. I think it's just the plant's gonna say, okay, we're done. We've already produced seeds and stuff like that, so our life purpose is fulfilled. But since you're in 8B, Texas, you could, I mean, I don't know what the greenhouse is like. I don't know what the temperatures are like, but maybe try growing it over winter. But now okra likes it hot, so yeah, just plant it out for next year and grow some, use the space to grow cool weather stuff. Grow the cabbages, the kales, the collard greens, the mustard greens, all the good stuff, beets, carrots, peas, onions, all of that stuff, green onions, because green onions are not day length sensitive. Bulb onions are day length sensitive, which you in 8B would use short day onions. But you would want to use over the wintertime, you would use green onions, because they just grow no matter what. They're not really day length sensitive, and you can harvest them all winter. You just cut them and they keep coming back. Cut them, keep coming back. I grew them downstairs in the little grow tent last winter, and there was more than I could consume, and I ate them every day. But this year I'm not going to do that, because I have so many bulb onions that are nice and rock hard, ready for storage. Because remember, the more pungent the onion, the longer it stays, the longer it keeps. The more sweet the onion, the less amount of time it keeps. So like the Spanish sweet or the Texas Grande or the Vidalia onions, those nice sweet onions, they don't keep very long, month or two, maybe a little bit longer if you have the right conditions. But the like New York Early or the Weathersfield Red onions, those will store all winter long. Or the Australian Brown, which is an intermediate day onion, they'll store all winter long, because they have a much higher sulfur content. That's what makes them real pungent to the eye, burning the eyes and all that, is their content of sulfur. But it also is what preserves them. So just understand that when you're choosing your storage crops, and it's just good knowledge to know for anyone that wants to grow their own stuff. Tracy, I have plastic under my raised bed or garden. Is there any negatives in this method? I live in Southeast Texas. Plastic under the raised bed garden is never recommended, my friend. in my experience. You can, absolutely, you can grow with that method and you will still get success, but you won't get like success. They won't be thriving, because with a raised bed, what is ideal is for the raised bed to be more like a, well, the roots, the plants will put down roots and go right through the raised bed into the ground. And that's what they want to do. And so that the raised bed will almost act like a mulch, because they really want to go into the earth. And that's what's going to make them drought tolerant, and they're going to seek out more minerals in the earth. Plants, they want the earth. They want the energetic vibrations of the earth as well. They want to be connected to the earth. You know, like if you have static electricity and you touch something, and because it immediately grounds out. And the plants have a similar energetic thing with the atmosphere. And so they want to be grounded completely. And so that, for that reason, we will put either hardware cloth, like the one lady or person suggested, or the landscaping fabric. The landscaping fabric appears like plastic and it has the same benefits as far as weed suppression, but it's penetrable. Roots can go down through the landscaping fabric. They can't come up through it, but the plants can't go up through the landscape fabric, but the roots can go down through it. And that's the biggest difference. And it allows water permeate. It's permeable to water. So this is important. So no, I don't recommend putting plastic at the bottom of the beds. My raised beds still have direct ground contact. Right. I understand. And so they'll still be fine. But if there's that layer of plastic, though, the roots cannot grow down through that. So it's essentially like a pot. You're essentially growing in a large pot, in effect, because nothing can penetrate that. Would you recommend wolf urine predator to combat squirrels? Yes, absolutely. That's actually what I originally started using it for, squirrels and rabbits. And the wolf, coyote, fox, lure, predator, urine, all that stuff, dab it around. And yes, that will definitely make them think twice. Now, if they're like totally starving to death, the animal, then they're not going to care. You know, if you're the only food source around, then you might have to, go to other methods, of like quicker, like quicker results, like instant results, but that's up to you. In which case, if that did happen, feel free to compost it in place, whatever the rodent is, and plant directly on top of it. It makes a fantastic fertilizer, composting in place. So if you have any rodents that you get rid of, never with poison though, but if you have any rodents you get rid of, compost them in place. You turn them back into food. So you are eating them in a way. People are like, oh, you just used your pellet gun to shoot that chipmunk, but you didn't eat it. Like, yeah, but I planted it into the ground and it's going to fertilize my food. So I actually am eating it in a way, in a very much so way. So would you recommend? Yes. So my friends, this one can't be all that long because I've got some friends of mine are doing a celebration that I need to be sort of a part of. So we'll go on a little bit longer and we'll see. So if you guys have any burning questions, would you please ask them? What vegetable plant would you pick for a teepee in the Denver, Colorado area? I have a transformer in my yard and it is the last spot left to plant. I want to do a container teepee around it. Any ideas? Okay, so but you mean what vegetable? Okay, so you must mean like in the summertime then, obviously. I would say any of the runner beans, or not runner, but any of the pole beans. So like rattlesnake pole beans, they can be eaten fresh as green beans, or they can be left to dry and eaten as dried beans. Or like Good Mother Stallard beans, those are my favorite shelling bean. Beans, definitely, because beans will climb it by themselves. Things like squash and cucumbers, they can climb, and they will climb, but not like a string, not like straight up a rope. They'll climb like a trellis, but it's real different. So the beans, though, will wind their way right up just a string or a pole, whatever it is. So that's what I would recommend, definitely. So Samantha, what food plants would you recommend growing inside during the wintertime? Yes, and I will be making videos explaining all of that. So we just started the first little taste of the indoor growing videos by defining the space. So the last video I made was about these awesome tents that I recommend, And you get those. There's links in the description of those videos to get them. And it allows you full control over the atmosphere, over the environment. And then I'm going to make a just complete beginner guide to indoor growing. And that's going to explain to you everything you need to know about the lights and the air and the water and the nutrients and the temperature in a very simple way. So you will understand it then. And as far as plants, I will also explain what plants are best and why. It's too much to get into here, but you essentially, you only plant the plants when we're doing our indoor growing. We are only going to focus on plants where, okay, there's two types of plants. There is what I will call the infrastructure plants, and then I will call the eating the infrastructure plants in a way. So things that have a fruit, like a pepper or a tomato or an eggplant or a squash or a cucumber or a beet, any of that, a root or a fruit, then those are not going to be good ones because they spend so much energy setting up the infrastructure in order to then produce the fruit that is really going to be cost prohibitive and ineffective for indoor growing. Whereas the plants that you eat the infrastructure are the leafy greens, things like spinach, collards, kale, microgreens, number one. All of that stuff we eat them at any stage along the way. We don't have to wait until they get to a certain point and then harvest something. Now, this is very important when it comes to knowing what we want to choose. So I'll go through all that in the video in a very concise way, but microgreens are going to be great. Greetings from Blue Mountains, Australia. Only time I appreciate insomnia when you're live. Thanks, Nate, for sharing your amazing knowledge. You are very welcome, my friend. So it's nighttime there. Well, have a wonderful sleep when you go back to sleep, my friend, and thank you for stopping by. I'm glad you're here and learning about this knowledge. What about using sorghum cane for healthy syrup? Absolutely, Link. That is a wonderful substance as well. I also have sorghum, very different flavor and not quite the mineral profile as blackstrap molasses or the maple syrup, which I was telling you guys about. I went to the farm yesterday. And really, man, this stuff's so delicious. Sorghum syrup is also great, especially if you grow it your own. So that is very, very helpful. So thank you again, Nate, for another awesome chat and all the great information. Yes, you're very welcome, Pam, and thank you. Daniel, did you find the leaf mold yet? I think you're talking to somebody else. So guys, I want to just make sure that you are utilizing the links in the description to get your stuff. And a lot of you have got the mushrooms already, so don't worry, just put them in the refrigerator and they'll be good. Or you could start this one if you want. It's very self-explanatory. But this is I'm going to make a video real soon explaining the mushroom and its life cycle and what it is so that you can have an overview of this process. Growing mushrooms is one of the most rewarding things. It's incredible. I mean, to grow, it's just so different than the plant. It's the whole inverse energy of the plant. The plant consumes carbon dioxide and releases oxygen. The fungi, the mushroom, consumes oxygen and releases carbon dioxide. The total opposite way that the plant functions. And so it's a symbiotic relationship with the mushrooms on the ground, releasing carbon dioxide, the fungi on the forest floor, and then the plants consuming that. It's just a beautiful relationship when we understand it. And so, yes, so get your stuff. Also get the microgreen seeds. We're going to be starting really with the peas, the Dundale peas, or the green peas, whatever it is, whichever ones you want to choose, and the black oil sunflower seeds, either the large ones or the small ones. It's not going to matter. So we'll start those in a while, but also if you go to the North Spore, the link in the description, utilize the code Garden Viking, you get 10% off, and that helps me, of course. So I appreciate it. But all right, guys, it's been real, and I appreciate you guys being here, and we'll see you next Saturday at 12 noon Eastern Time. That's New York time. And let's see, what are some catchphrases? Stay loyal to the soil, my friends. And also, I think a good one is, you are what you eat eats. Do you understand? You are what you eat eats. Not only are you what you eat, but whatever they are eating is direct influence and relationship to what you become. So, okay, my friends, thanks for stopping by. We'll see you next time.